I'm Victoria. They say you can't go home again. But what they don't tell you is that sometimes, home is a place that actively revokes your visitation rights. It changes the locks, bolts the doors, and pretends you never existed in the first place. My name is Victoria Sterling. For 35 years, my identity was the eldest child of Sterling Solutions, a global engineering and construction dynasty. My brother Lawrence was 8 years my junior. From the time I could read a blueprint, I was in my father's shadow, learning the business from the ground up. The stress of concrete, the elegance of load-bearing equations, the ruthless calculus of a bid. Lawrence was different. He saw the empire not as a living, breathing entity of steel and sweat, but as a trophy waiting on a mantelpiece. When our father died suddenly, the will was read in this very formal, wood-paneled room that always smelled of lemon polish and quiet power. I was 42. I'd just secured the contract for the new art center, the firm's most prestigious public project. I expected stewardship, partnership. What I heard was a legal disassembly of my life's work. The Sterling fortune, the company, the trusts, the holding companies, the real estate portfolio, was placed in a complex succession trust. Lawrence was named the sole trustee and CEO. My role was defined as senior advisor, with a generous but fixed salary, and a non-voting seat on the board. The language was clear. I was an employee of the legacy, not an heir to it. My father, in his final act, had listened to the counsel of old-world advisors and his own subconscious bias, and had locked me out of the control room. Lawrence held the only key. His explanation was delivered with a sad, fraternal sigh. Vic, it's not about competence. It's about continuity. A single, clear line of succession. The markets, the partners, they need to see stability, not a potential power struggle. This way, we present a united front. A united front with me standing silently behind him. I was being patrimonially benched. I looked at my brother, at the new, unfamiliar authority settling on his shoulders, and I knew. This wasn't just my father's decree. Lawrence had advocated for this. He had feared my shadow, and he had conspired to step out of it by turning off the light. The following 5 years were a masterclass in professional suffocation. Every proposal I brought forward, innovative green materials, a diversification into modular housing, was met with a pat on the head and a too risky for our core brand. Every client relationship I nurtured was slowly absorbed into the CEO's portfolio. I was the ghost in the machine, my expertise consulted but my authority hollow. My salary was a gilded leash, reminding me monthly of my dependency. The breaking point was the Pinnacle Towers project, a bid for a flagship sustainable skyscraper. It was my vision, my design consortium, 2 years of my life. The day before the final presentation, Lawrence called me in. We're pulling the bid. The board feels it's a distraction from our core infrastructure work. And frankly, Vic, your design is over-engineered and proven. I saw it in his eyes then. It wasn't about risk. It was about erasure. He couldn't stand the thought of the firm's next iconic project being known as Victoria's Tower. He would rather have no tower at all. I resigned that afternoon. No drama. A simple letter. The press release from Sterling Solutions stated I was pursuing other opportunities. The industry buzz was that I'd finally been put out to pasture. What I was terrified. And terrifyingly free. I had savings, not fortune. I had a reputation, but one now framed by my sudden mysterious exit. I was 47 years old, and professionally homeless. But I had 2 assets my brother had overlooked. My neural network of contacts, built on decades of respect, and a galvanizing white-hot fury. I would not break down the door he'd locked. I would build a better building next door, with a view that would completely eclipse his. I called it Axiom Ventures. The principle was simple. I would invest in and incubate the very ideas Sterling Solutions rejected: the over-engineered, the unproven, the disruptive. Advanced material science, smart city infrastructure, AI-driven project management. I would fund the future my brother was too afraid to touch. The first capital came from a surprising place: women. Former clients, heiresses from other stifled family businesses. A few fiercely loyal former Sterling executives who wrote checks based on faith in me, not a balance sheet. It was modest, but it was mine. Our first major win wasn't a building. It was a glue. A biotech startup had developed a self-healing polymer for concrete. Sterling Solutions had passed. I saw its potential for bridges in cold climates, for seismic zones. Axiom led the seed round. 2 years later, that company was acquired by a major chemical giant. Our return was 40x. It wasn't just a financial win, it was a validation of my thesis. I had seen value where the old guard saw waste. Lawrence initially dismissed Axiom as my hobby, a vanity project for the disillusioned. But as Axiom's portfolio companies began winning awards, securing patents, and most gallingly, starting to bid against Sterling on key projects, his dismissiveness curdled into active hostility. The war moved through 3 phases. Phase 1, the talent war. He began poaching. He'd offered double salaries to key engineers at my most promising startups. At first, it worked. But then we turned it into a badge of honor. We celebrated the Sterling salary survivors, and I implemented a radical transparency and equity model that made his cash offers look shallow. We started to attract talent from him. Brilliant young minds who felt stymied by Sterling's risk-averse culture. Phase 2. The smear campaign. Anonymous blogs appeared, questioning Axiom's financial stability, suggesting my success was a front, that I was a figurehead for shadowy investors. I didn't sue. I invited Forbes for a full, transparent audit of our funds. The resulting article was titled, "The Anti-VC: How Victoria Sterling's Radical Trust is Building the Future." The attack backfired spectacularly. Phase 3. The direct assault. Sterling Solutions used its heft to lobby against municipal contracts favoring unproven technologies that Axiom's portfolio companies specialized in. Lawrence was using his influence to fight innovation itself, to protect his legacy by stifling the future. It was during a brutal city council hearing about a smart grid project that I had my epiphany. I was there to defend our portfolio company. Lawrence was there, in his Seville Row suit, giving testimony about the dangers of municipal experimentation with critical infrastructure. As he spoke, I didn't see my brother. I saw my father. I saw the ghost of every conservative board member. I saw the fear of obsolescence dressed up as prudence. He wasn't my enemy. He was a museum curator, desperately guarding a collection that the world was slowly losing interest in. And I was not a vandal. I was an archaeologist of the future, digging in the same ground, but for different artifacts. The project was awarded to us. It was a symbolic decapitation. Sterling's stock dipped. And then the call came. Not from Lawrence. From the chairman of Sterling Solutions board. Lawrence had suffered a stress-related cardiac event. Not fatal, but serious. The board was concerned. About leadership. About direction. About the company's palpable drift into irrelevance. They asked for a meeting. I walked into the Sterling boardroom, not as a supplicant, but as the CEO of Axiom Ventures. The same wood paneling, the same lemon polish. But the faces around the table were different. Older, graver, scared. "The company is adrift, Victoria," the chairman said. "The brand is still strong, but the engine is stalling. Lawrence's strategy has been defensive. We need a vision for the next 30 years, not a preservation of the last 60. They wanted me to come back. To be co-CEO with Lawrence upon his recovery. I laughed. It was involuntary, a short, sharp burst of air. You cannot be serious. You sanctioned my exile. You watched him systematically dismantle my influence. And now you want me to save you. We want you to save the company your grandfather started, he replied, unflinching. It's in your blood, whether you like it or not. I looked at them, these custodians of the past, and I saw their offer for what it was, the ultimate capitulation. They were offering me the keys to the kingdom I'd been locked out of. But I no longer wanted those keys. I had forged my own. No, I said, clear and calm. I will not be co-CEO. But Axiom Ventures will acquire a controlling 51% stake in Sterling Solutions. The room erupted. A hostile takeover. This is what you wanted all along. I held up a hand. Not hostile. A merger. A rescue mission. Axiom brings innovation, agility, and a vision for the future. Sterling brings scale, deep industry relationships, and a legendary name. We will create a new entity. Axiom Sterling. We will future-proof the legacy, not embalm it. The negotiation was the most brutal of my life. Lawrence, from his hospital bed, fought it through lawyers. But the board, faced with a choice between a slow decline and a revolutionary leap, chose the leap. The financial structure was complex, but the outcome was simple. Axiom was the acquiring entity. I would be chairman and CEO of the new combined company. Lawrence, upon recovery, would have the title of President of Legacy Operations, focusing on the core infrastructure business he understood. It was for him a graceful cage. For me, it was the final proof of concept. I hadn't just built my own empire. I had been forced to buy my family's to save it from itself. That was 4 years ago. Lawrence is resigned. He runs his division competently, with no appetite for our moonshots, as he calls them. We speak monthly. It is cordial, transactional, and forever marked by the chasm between us. The brother I knew is gone, replaced by a senior executive who reports to me. Axiom Sterling is now a leader in sustainable urban development. We're building the things I once dreamed of. The Pinnacle Towers project? We broke ground last year. It's called the Axiom. My brother's name is not on the plaque. This tarnished key is the original to my father's first office. It doesn't fit any lock in the new Axiom Sterling headquarters. I keep it to remember that the locks they put on you are not about your safety. They are about their own. My journey wasn't about getting even. It was about getting ahead. So far ahead that the locked door becomes a quaint, small relic in your rearview mirror. If you are locked out of a family business, a career path, a destiny someone else wrote for you, hear this. Do not stand at the door and beg. Do not try to pick the lock. Walk away. Find an empty plot of land. Lay your own foundation. Pour your own concrete. Build your own tower, floor by excruciating floor. Make it so tall, so bright, so undeniably magnificent that it changes the entire skyline. And one day, you'll look down and see that the old fortress, with its rusty locks, is now in your shadow. And the key they once held so tightly? It's just a paperweight on your desk, a reminder that the greatest power is not in holding the keys, but in owning the blueprint. Thank you for listening. If you want to hear more story like this, please like the video and subscribe the channel. Hit the bell icon to get notified.